Now, we touched on this a little earlier, but Sky News Australia, this network, it is the country's most followed news outlet on social media, has actually removed itself from TikTok over national security issues. We are the first media outlet in the country to exit the platform due to these security risks. Former Defence Intelligence Analyst Paul Monk, I'm sure, has something to say on it, and I'm delighted to say he joins me now. Paul, welcome to the show. First off, what do you think about the Sky News decision to remove itself from TikTok? And do you think other organisations in the media space are maybe susceptible to China infiltration through this?
In answer to your first question, I think it's a very respectable and adroit move on the part of Sky News. But the reality is that the Chinese Communist Party systematically utilises both state-owned enterprises and now private sector enterprises in the pursuit of its national security ambitions. That most definitely includes TikTok. I was invited some years ago by two different Chinese women of my acquaintance to take an account on WeChat so that we could communicate while they were in China, and I declined. And when they ingenuously said, "Why?" I said, "Because I do not trust the Chinese Communist Party as far as I could spit it." And this definitely applies to TikTok. So I have no hesitation in endorsing the Sky News decision, and I believe that other media outlets would be well advised to do the same. We're now in a serious era with Xi Jinping's China, and we must become strategic about it. We cannot afford to continue to dither and palm it away as if it's all a bit of hysteria within Australia. It simply isn't.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and I'm sure the decisions by Sky News and the government, of course, to remove it from their devices will filter through the community. It will inflame the Chinese. Is there any link to the fact that the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has been invited to attend NATO's upcoming summit in Lithuania? Obviously, NATO want to strengthen ties with its Asia-Pacific partners, but is it directly related to China's growing alignment with Russia and what it means for our community down here?
Without any doubt. I mean, what's become apparent in the Xi Jinping era is, first of all, that China has got global ambitions now. Any doubt about that needs to be put aside. Xi Jinping is going flat out to dispel any doubt about it. He's speaking up their ambitions globally, their ambitions very specifically within the Western Pacific and East Asia. And he's been saying in party congresses and conferences in Beijing, the military must be prepared to fight. Private sector companies must subordinate their profit seeking to national security and military priorities. This man is preparing for war. There should be no doubt about that. And we are not prepared for war. But what we're doing is we're talking to one another about our growing concerns. And one of the things that Xi Jinping appears to be oblivious to is that his behaviour and his open aggressiveness have alienated virtually all of his neighbours. We can only hope now that those neighbours in concert with us can, as it were, get our act together quickly enough to deter him from taking rash action that could spiral out of control. The link with NATO is, of course, we know that Putin has gone to war in Ukraine, and we know that Xi Jinping has said that he backs Putin. In fact, backs him pretty much all the way. So those two malign and autocratic powers are in league. One of them is already at war with a democracy that wishes to be part of the EU and NATO in Ukraine. And the other is, as you pointed out in your introductory remarks, conducting large-scale military exercises just in the past few days, directly threatening Taiwan, which is another democracy that seeks Western recognition and protection. This is the climate in which we now live.
Yeah, Paul, this is something that fascinates me, and it just occurred to me today. I was reading about this Chinese military build-up against Taiwan. I understand their Navy has now surrounded the island entirely. Dozens of warplanes have gone in for a second day of drills. They've violated Taiwanese airspace, apparently. We've had, of course, the inflammatory US House Speaker making a visit there. We know the Chinese don't like that. I just get this sense that a war footing is on hand, and it could happen at any time. Is that the sense that you get, or is this just more posturing from the Chinese in the short term?
I think there is a distinct danger, and we ought to take account of what happened in the matter of Ukraine, because the CIA was aware months beforehand from very good sources inside Russia, not only that Russia intended to go to war, but how precisely its columns would enter Ukraine. And it warned its NATO allies without disclosing its sources, lest there be a leak. And the French and the Germans were saying, surely not. Surely he's posturing. It's bluff. They were wrong. The CIA had it right. And the sweetest thing about this, from my personal point of view, is that Zelensky himself was skeptical because he couldn't believe that Putin would be so rash as to openly invade the country. I spoke on Sky News a few days before Putin did invade, and without knowing Zelensky's judgment in the matter, I made the same judgment. I said in as many words to Sharry Markson, Putin's a thug, but he's not stupid. Well, I'm happy to admit that I was in error. Putin launched Russia into a war that's been extraordinarily costly for his country, that has discredited him around the world, except in Xi's China, and that remains unresolved as of now. We therefore have to take seriously the possibility that Xi means exactly what he's saying, that they will take time. They'll take it in their own time, and they'll take it whatever it costs. Yeah. And as their ambassador in Australia said,
hey Paul, I've only got 1 minute left, and I just need your opinion on this, if you're happy. French President Emmanuel Macron came back from a visit to China. He's now actually said that NATO needs to start weaning itself off of the USA reliance. Is this a bit of French self-interest? What do you think took place there? Is he trying to realign the NATO forces versus the Chinese-Russia axis?
I haven't caught up with his remarks, and I'm astonished that he would be saying that the Western European powers need to wean themselves away from the American alliance. Certainly, he would have been encouraged to think that in Beijing, I'm in no doubt. But I can't see how it makes any strategic sense. There's an old joke about the French being surrender monkeys, and one sincerely hopes that at a point when NATO has been standing up to Putin, that Macron's not going to go to water and start undermining the alliance, because China is a bigger.
I suggest he's got a few domestic problems to deal with too at the time, Macron in France. Paul, I'm terribly sorry, but I'm out of time. Thanks very much for being on the show, and I look forward to talking with you again very soon.